thing it is giving an error. Just can you look at it and can you help me like where is the problem? Should not take more time, I believe.
What problem? Can you share your screen?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. I am unable to share. You are not allowed to share your screen, it says.
it is turned on. Sharing screen. Okay, what is
Just
the problem? Can you just tell me without sharing screen?
it is actually see it says modules sci-fi.misc has no attribute I am read. It says that way, but I still
Yes. So I think what the problem is, I think you might be using outdated version of SciPy. You might need to update it.
how should I do it actually? Can you help me like where I have to do
Okay.
in the console or
Okay. No, actually, now that I googled it up, now I need to see that I'm seeing that mostly it was removed. It is there in the previous version. So yeah, so you need to install the previous version if you want to use imread inside uh, from SciPy. So I'm giving you the code. So you need to pip install SciPy equals to say 1.1. So that's an older version. So I've written it in the
oh,
chat.
okay, okay.
See, if you do this, then I think this version has the imread function. Or you, why do you need to use imread? You can just use, I think, you can also just read it using PIL, the image library of Python, and then you can convert it to a NumPy array directly. Like, okay, let me share my whole screen. Then I'll that's something that I showed, I think, last day or last to last day. Let me show you once.
Oh, this one you already shown, you mean?
Yes, let me show you. So yes, so last day, so yeah, so you don't need to use scipy.imread. So I think it just loads the image as a NumPy array. So you can just use this line. So you can open it using the image library that was shown in week 8. So PIL image library, image.open, and then you can just do numpy np.asArray image.convert. So if you use these two lines, then you can basically do the same work as SciPy. I think will load the image imread using imread,
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
or you can
Yeah, yeah.
just okay.
I'll refer eighth week. This one, yeah, your video.
Yes, and
I had to
yeah,
go through the eighth week video.
yes. Also, you can Google up how to load image into NumPy array or something like that. If you Google, I think you'll get similar answers.
Okay.
Or you can, or the other very like other alternative is to install the previous version of SciPy, the like 1.1, like I showed. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, then let's get. Okay, so this week we'll be going over
Sir,
some. Yes, go on. Any
just I was
doubts?
giving a screenshot to you through the mail.
Okay. Let
Just
let me check
have you got
once.
it?
Yes, I have received. Uh, okay, week 10 program assignment. Not you need to take the talk. Do not print anything while taking input. Uh, yes, so you need to take an input using the input uh, like input
Okay.
like
Uh,
s equals to input, and like don't give in anything inside. So that's what they are telling, that don't print anything. So don't write anything like enter a string. So don't
okay.
do that. Just leave it blank.
No, no. My doubt is in the
Yes.
inputs you have given neither uppercase nor lowercase. But through over voice command, will we be able to given such a kind of input to that?
So you want to know if we can input using voice commands in like upper and lower case? I don't think so.
Uh,
Like
so
I think it depends on the voice engine you are using, but it will generally just capitalize the first letters of the, like that's not just for Python, but any, even if you use say
for every
Google or
word,
something, I
for every
think.
word it will capitalize. It does camel case
No,
in Google.
it doesn't.
No.
It won't. That's what I'm saying. So I don't think there are
Uh,
any speech to text converters that will do that automatically. There might be some specific ones, but you need to Google that. I think they will just follow the normal, like first word of the sentence will be capital letters. Any proper nouns will be capital letters. I think that's the so I don't think you can
Actually,
input like this using voice commands.
in our course case, you have shown us one video which
Yes.
converts the audio file to the text,
Okay. Yes.
but everything is in lowercase only.
Yes. So
Now
most
this
of
is
the
the result of that.
libraries.
Asking for us to make it like this. And one more doubt is
No, no. This is input
the
using the. This is not input using voice commands. This is just input using text. Like just use this input that I'm showing on the screen. Just normal Python input.
that what is the highlighted in that red not to talk like this thing. Talk only clearly. They
Yeah,
have
it's a
highlighted with.
typo. It's not talk. It's you don't. You need to take the input. I think it should be. It's just a typo. I think in the.
Okay, then how we can
You,
get a clarification for this? If it is a
uh,
typo, then
Yeah, it is a typo. It is definitely a typo. I don't think. But yeah, if you need clarification on this, then I think you should post it in the discussion forum. But
hmm.
yeah, it like by common sense, I think it just means you need to take the input and do not print anything else while taking input, because the question is like that only. It's a simple. Anyway, all of
Uh,
the assignments of this course are not really related. At least the programming assignments are not really related to the videos, so that's a bit kind of weird for this course. But okay, at least. Yeah, that's the
if,
reason today we'll be discussing mostly MCQs, which are actually related to the videos.
okay.
Yes.
One more doubt, sir. If it is
Yes.
online, your NPTEL interpreter, will it be really able to take these things?
Take what things?
We will be writing in the online code, online
Yes.
interpreter only.
Yes. So
So,
take what do you mean? You mean take input
uh,
text? It can take
taking
input
voice
text. I'm not sure if it can take voice input text. I don't think it
file
can take.
input and even file string also, it may not be able to take a file read and file write thing also.
Hi. Why will you write in a file in the? I don't think you
I
need to write
I'm
in a file
asking
in
is
the. See, if you need a
now.
Python interpreter, you can just do some Google and then online Python. There you can run if you want to. No, if you want
Okay.
files, then why do you want to run it online? If you want to run, if you want some file handling, then you should run it in your PC.
Why I am asking, sir?
Yes.
This is assignment question. Tomorrow, if we had posed a question on the proctor test, so
Yes.
for that to get it ready for that.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So no, I don't think you'll be getting any file handling questions on. Uh, but if they give, then I think they can handle it. So I am not sure if
Oh,
they can handle, but I doubt if they can, if it can.
okay, 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 okay.
But
Okay, sir. Thank you.
yes. Anyway, so I think okay, recording has started. I hope yes. Okay, then let's start for today. So today we'll be mostly solving some MCQs from previous years, and
Okay.
yes, yes. So this is the welcome to week 9, and so since we are mostly doing MCQs this week, not too much of programming questions. So I would like you to actually, all of you to actually try to answer the questions. So if you have attended some previous sessions, they might be common, but like sessions by other TS, they might be common. But yeah, if you know the answer, try to write it in the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and just answer the question. So yeah, let's get started with the first question. So this is just general knowledge about Python. So in which of the following ways can we create a string in Python? So by using single quotes, by using double quotes, by using triple quotes. So there can be multiple choices. Which one do you think? So just write in the chat which of these are correct, you think.
Single and double.
Single and double, okay. And Lakshmi says all of the above. Yes. Any other answers? Okay. So yes, actually the answer is all of the above. So I'll show you how it can be done. So let's just do a sample. So actually you can define a string using single quotes like this. You can say this is a string. You can do double quotes. So this is also a string. Sorry. Yeah. This is double quotes. Like not two single quotes but double quotes. And you can also use triple quotes. That's actually a bit tricky. So you can actually use 3 double quotes, or you can also use 3 single quotes. So all of these are actually strings. So I'll just do all of the ways. S1 say yes, S1 S2 equals to say sorry, S2 yes, S3 equals to say single quotes, and then say S4 equals to normal double quotes. So if you are familiar with some other programming languages like say C, C++, Java, I think they only have, not I think, like they only have one way of initializing strings, which is using double quotes, the S4. But in Python, if you run this, that you can see that there are no errors. Let me increase this a bit. So S1 is also, this is a string, and you can see it has actually converted it to like single quotes, even though we had written triple quotes, like because they are basically the same thing. So you can see all of these are basically the same thing. So in other languages like C, C++, Java, it generally uses double quotes for strings, but in Python you can use double quotes, you can use single quotes, you can use 3 single quotes, you can use 3 double quotes. So yeah, so these 3 double quotes are often also used for multi-line comments. So you know how to make a comment, right? So if you do a hash, then that line is a comment. So this is a comment and it will be ignored. So but there are no inherent ways in Python to make a multi-line comment like in C. If you know C, C++, you can do something like this, multi-line comment. But in Python there is not such no such direct way. So some people actually use these triple quotes to actually make multi-line comments. So this is actually technically not a comment, this is technically a string, but what is happening is here is like it is, the string is there, it is not getting assigned to anything, it is just staying there. So it kind of behaves like a string. But then where do you actually, in what cases do you actually should you use these different double quotes or single quotes? That's a really important question. So Python actually gives you that freedom. So if suppose if you in your string there is a let's say in your string there is a quotes present, right? So if your string is suppose so suppose if you are used to writing strings like this, so something like say yeah, don't do this. So already it is making some errors. So if your sentence is said don't do this, okay, so it has a built-in like it has a inherent single quote. So in this case, if you cannot really use single quotes, you can use double quotes, and then it will just behave as a normal string just fine, right? S1 is a string, don't do this. You can see there is a single quote present, and you can see that difference is that all the other strings were having single quotes, but this one is showing double quotes here because it has a single quotes inside it. Now what do you want to do? What if you want to use double quotes inside? So something like he said don't do this, or he said this is good. So now you can see there are some errors, like the colors are not matching up, right? Because you cannot use single double quotes. So in other languages, if you had to use double quotes, so you would have, like in C, I think you would have to use something like slash quotes. So I think this will also work in Python. Let's see. Yes, so you can see it is working, and you can see here it is also using single quotes in the outside. But in Python, the shortcut, instead of doing slash quotes, you can just give single quotes, and you can see that this is a good string, like this is perfect, working all right. And yeah, so if you have to use something like both, if your sentence contains both, don't do this, he said don't do this, in that case it will be good to use triple quotes. So right, so in this case if you run it, you can see so yeah, you can see that it's in the representation it shows that like slash quotes, but yeah, it is simply like this is the string basically, right? Okay, so that is when you should use single quotes versus double quotes versus triple quotes. So all of them are actually valid in Python. Any questions? Okay, if not, then We'll move on to the next question, I guess. So okay, so I think this week the lectures, I think in week 9, the lectures introduced these random graphs. Sorry, not just random graphs, but like network X library and graphs in general. So yeah, graph is just like you can think of it like some nodes and edges, where nodes are like some objects and edges represent some relationships between them. Like you can represent some humans by some nodes, and if they are friends you can connect them via an edge. Like that's what I think the Milgram's experiment, the 6 degrees of freedom thing, I think that's what the graph was. But yes, so coming back, so in the network X library there is this function which is, so you don't really need to know what this function does, but you can guess that it generates a random graph. Okay, it generates a random graph of 10 nodes, and it draws edges, like it connects the nodes using edges with 0.5 probability. So for each possible edge, it will try to connect them with a probability of 0.5, right? So the question is, then you are printing that if the graph G is connected or not. So will this always print true, or will it sometimes be false also? What do you think? Can someone write in the comments or unmute yourself and answer? Okay, so no answers till now. Any guesses? Like, will it always print true, or will it sometimes also print false, or will it only print false? Okay, someone says always true. Yes. Yes. So actually, that is not correct actually, but yes, thanks for trying. So actually, what happens is, so nx dot is connected is, so what a connected graph is, like basically all of the nodes should have some way of going from one node to another node in the graph via the edges, right? So there should not be some node which is unreachable from another node by following the edges. Okay. So if we have a graph like this, so it's not very easy to draw here, but let's just do a graph something like this. I'll just show an example of a graph which is not connected. So let us say some graph like 1, 2, 3 and then 4, 5. So this is also a graph, but it is not connected because you cannot reach from 1 to 4. Like say 1, 2, 3, these are the nodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these are the nodes, and these dashes are the edges. So you cannot really reach from 1 to 4 using edges. So if your graph looked something like this, so this is also an edge, consider. Then you have a connection between 1 and 4, also between 1 and 5. So this is a connected graph. So all the nodes should be reachable from all other nodes for it to be connected. So but when you are making a random graph, so the question says that you are generating a random graph G, right? So when you are making a random graph, so it is filling up all of the edges with 0.5 probability. So obviously it is most likely that you will get a true, that most likely it will be a connected graph, because you only need like if you have 10 nodes, you only need 9 edges to like be a connected graph. So if you have a something like say something like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if you, this is like the minimal number of edges that you can have for a connected graph of size 10. So you can see 1, 2, so all in between you have some edges, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So only using 9 edges out of, so how many edges can you have in a graph of 10 nodes? That is actually you have to consider the the combination. So 10 C2 which is equals to like I think 45. So this is the total number of edges possible in a graph of node like with 10 nodes, but you only need 9 edges to for it to be a like complete graph, a connected graph. But it might so happen that your graph looks something like this. So there might be edges in between here also. There might be edges between 1 and 3. There might be edges between 1 and 4, 1 and 5. There might be edges between 7 and 8, 7 and 9. But these two components might be separate. So there is no guarantee that they will be connected since we are making a random graph. So the answer to this question is no. This code can sometimes print false also, but in most cases it will print true. So if you lower down this priority to something like say 0.001, then the chances of getting false is more likely. If you move it to say 0.99, then the chances of getting false is very low. So it depends on the priority that you are using, but unless it is exactly 1, like exactly 1 will mean that all of the edges are there. That is like a complete graph anyway. Like all of the edges possible, all of the 45 possible edges are there. So only in that case can you for certain say that this graph will definitely be connected. Even if you are using a probability of say 0.99, then also there might be a slight possibility that there are two components which are not connected. Okay. So that is about this question. Any doubts about this question? Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so another question about graphs. So using the NetworkX library, I hope the code is visible. So what is the output of the following code? Okay, so we are just importing NetworkX library and the plotting library, matplotlib library. So we are creating a new graph and we are adding nodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we are adding some edges between 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 1 and 3, 1. And then we are drawing the graph. So what will the graph look like? So this is a bit difficult to write on the chat, so I'll just show you the answer. So how to actually approach these questions. So I'll be using my trusty spider, but yeah, not the ideal place to draw a graph, but I think we can make it work for 4 nodes. So let's keep it on the side. Let's do something. Let's do it side by side. Okay, so we have 4 nodes 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's write them like this. Okay, we have 4 nodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and so we can have all possible edges. So we can have 4c2, which is like 6 edges. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can have 6 edges, and we are adding some edges. So we are adding an edge, let's see, between 1 and 2. So we are adding an edge over here. Yeah, let's keep it that way. Okay, then we are adding an edge between 2 and 1. But then again, so this is undirected graph. So between 1 and 2 and 2 and 1 is the same, basically same edge. There is no difference between 1, 2 and 2 and 1 for this particular graph. There are directed graphs, but this is an undirected graph. So 1 2 edge and 2 1 edge is the same. Okay, so next we have set 2 3. So we'll have a 2 3, something like let's say use this. Not ideal, but let's just consider this. Okay, so we have something like this. Okay, then we have 3 4, so an edge between 3 and 4, and then we have 4 1. So let's convert this to an x. Okay, 2 3, and then finally we have 3 1. Okay, so something like this. So the only edge missing here is the 2 4 edge, and obviously when you are drawing it by in pen and paper, or then it's much easier to draw, just make circles. But yeah, so this is how you can actually make any graphs by your own, and then you can, for example, if the question was what is the in degree of the node 3, right? So if it was something like not draw but print the in degree of the node say node 3, then what is the answer for that question? So you can easily draw the graph like this. So better in pen and paper. So draw it like this, and then you can see that the 3 has, so this node 3, this has one edge to 1, like node number 1. It has an edge to node number 4. It has an edge to node number 2. So the degree of this node 3 is 3. The 3 has 3 other edges connected to it. Right? So okay, so if you plot it, then you will get a graph something like this. Yes. Any questions?
Sir, one more question.
Yes.
For node number 3, now its neighbors are 3. As
Can you
per
repeat?
the drawing,
Can you repeat?
node number 3
Yes.
is having neighbors of 3,
Yes.
which are directly connected. They will be called neighbors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So
Whereas for
yes.
two,
Continue.
it is only node number 2. It is only 2 nodes, 2 neighbors.
Yes. So 2 has only 2 neighbors. So 1 is a neighbor and 3 is a neighbor. Yes.
Yes.
Similar for
Okay.
4.
Thank you.
Yes. So neighbors and see, yeah. So number of neighbors is close to its degree. So for a
Okay.
undirected graph, they are the same. But yes, let's keep it
Okay.
at that. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. So okay. So this is a like very simple question, and if you have watched the lectures, you should be able to answer. So how many edges are there in the following graph? Very simple question. I need
4.
some answers. Yes, some other people also please answer.
4,
Any
sir.
any other? Okay. Anyone thinks there are less than or more than 4 edges? Okay. No. Okay. Okay. Yes. So there are actually 4 nodes and 4 edges. So very simple question. So there are, as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 nodes and edges. So 1 and 4 has an edge, 1 and 2 has an edge, and 3 and 4 has an edge, 2 and 3 has an edge. You can just count. So, okay, very simple question. Let's move on to the next question quickly. Okay. So similarly, easier question, just testing your concepts. So how many neighbors does node 3 have? So how many neighbors does node 3 have? Any guesses?
3 nodes, 3 neighbors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, again, this is a very simple question, I think, after the previous question I explained. So, yes, so neighbor 3, 3 has basically, so by neighbors, what we mean, if someone has not watched the lectures, so by neighbors, what we mean is like, what are the nodes, what are these circles, which are connected with a line, with an edge. Okay, so directly connected. So, so 3 has an edge to 1, so 3 is directly connected to the node 1. 3 is also connected to node 2, 3 is also connected to node 4, right? So, but 2 and 4 does not have a direct connection. So 2 and 4 are not neighbors, but they are like, they are called 2-hop neighbors, but that's something else. But yeah, they are not direct neighbors. So if you are asked if 2 and 4 are neighbors, so the answer is no, they are not neighbors. Okay, next question. Okay, so I think this is the last MCQ question. Okay, so suppose you have a complete graph with n nodes, then how many, what is the degrees of separation of that node? So I think if you have watched the lectures, so in the lectures I think it was discussed what is a degree of separation. But basically your degree of separation, if you don't know, so if you draw a graph and then if you basically try to find the shortest path between all combinations of node, if you take all combinations of nodes and you take the shortest path, then you try to find what is the maximum among the shortest paths. So kind of like maximal shortest path. So that's it's also called the diameter of the graph. But yes, so can someone answer? So if you have a complete graph, and a complete graph is like a graph with all edges, all possible edges. So n if it has n nodes, then it will have n C2 edges. So can you say what is the degree of separation of such a graph?
1.
Yes, why 1? Can you explain?
Yeah. Because every node is connected to the other node. So the distance between the each other node is only one half.
Yes, exactly. So by definition, if we look at it by looking at the definition, so a complete graph of say 4 nodes will be something like this. So there are all possible edges involved, right? So now if you take any 2 nodes in the graph and try to find the shortest distance, so obviously all of the nodes have an edge. So the shortest distance between any two nodes will be 1. And yeah, so this is true for all of the combinations. Uh, Hence, the degrees of separation will be equals to 1. Okay. And yeah, there can be no zero is a like there can be no graph with a 0 degree of separation. 1 is the minimum, and that is for a complete graph. Okay. Okay, then yeah. Now let's move on to. So I hope there was no doubts about the previous question, and if not, then let's move on to this coding question. Yes. So suppose. So this is slightly different from the lecture. So this is a question from the last year's course. I think last semester's last time course. So this is not exactly related to the lectures of this week, but yes. So suppose you are given two strings called s1 and s2. So you have to write a function substring substring which accepts two parameters, obviously these two strings s1 and s2, and will return true if s2 is a substring of s1 and otherwise return false. So what is a substring? Substring is a contiguous sequence of characters within a string. Okay, so let me give some examples. So suppose you have s1 equals to say I don't know, say Python is fun. Okay, so a valid substring of this will be something like Python is a valid substring because Python is the word Python is there in the s1 string. So s2 is a substring of s1, but it may not be complete words also. If it's something like Ithon, something like this Ytho, sorry. So this is also a substring because this is present in its entirety inside this string. Okay, if you give something like this is also a substring. Ithon e does not make any sense, but this is also a substring. But if you do something like this, then it is not a substring because this n is not present, so it is not a contiguous yeah. Or if you do something like say Python fun, so this is also present, everything is present, maybe something like this also. So this is not a substring because there is a contiguous, there is like something in between missing, the s is missing. But this and this is finally, this is also a substring because a string is a substring of itself because you can just overlay it over the other string, right? So we are given these two strings s1 and s2, and we want to write a function substring which accepts s1 and s2 and will return true if s2 is a substring of s1, otherwise it will return false. So so I don't think you need to write the code in the chat, but try to think about it for a couple of minutes. How do we solve this? So let's write a function. I'll make the function sub str s1 s2, and we do something inside this function and we return something, and finally we'll call this function print substring s1 s2. Okay, so something like Python. Okay, so what do we do inside? So let's look at it from the perspective of, so if you are just learning Python, or if you are, suppose say you know some other language, C++. So let's look at it first from that perspective, then we'll look at the shortcut in Python. Okay, so let's start with something like so what we need to do is we need to iterate over all of the characters, so all of the positions in the string 1, and then from that position we need to start searching for this s2. So what we'll do is first we'll suppose, for example, we'll start from say p, so index 0, I equals to 0, say we'll start from the first character pi, and then we'll start does, if I take so 1 2 3 4 5, so if I take 5 characters from this position I, so all of the string between say I to I plus 5, or it will be something like len s2, but in this case it is 5. So if I take this string between I to I plus 5, does it match this s2? If not, then we move it to 1, and then we have this portion will become ithon, and that is exactly what we want to match. And then yeah, we'll see that it matches, and we'll say that yes, this is a substring. If not, then we'll carry on, and then we'll go on till uh, like length of s minus this length of s2, because we need to consider these last 5, 1 2 3 4 5. So this s is the last position we can actually go on to. If we move more than that, then we cannot actually get 5 characters, right? So we'll just follow this strategy, right? So let's say we start from, say, for I in range len s1 minus len s2. So this is like I explained. This is so that we can yeah, so that we can add we can still take a chunk of length s2 from the string 1, and we can compare it with s2, right? So we want to extract that chunk. Let's call it, say, tmp equals to s1, and we take it from, say, I till I plus length of s2. So we are taking a chunk from s1, and which is this of the same length as s2, right? So we are starting from this position I, and we are going till I plus length of s2, and then we want to just compare this with s2 and see if it is equal or not. So we want to just check if if s2 equals to temp, then we know that this is a substring. Then we can just return true. And if not, if we finish this entire loop and we could not find any such condition, if this condition was not true, that means there are no substrings. So we just return false here. So let's run it and see if our code is correct. Yeah, so it says true. Let's try for something like, say, iton, and it will show false, so as expected. And obviously you can also print something like, if you want to show the position, you can actually return, instead of just returning true and false, you can actually return, say, the position I, and here if you don't find it, you can return none. So none in Python is actually used when you don't have an answer. You can just return none, or you can also do return, this will also return none, or you can, if you want to explicitly return an integer, you can also return something like -1, but then you have to keep a check when you are using it. You need to keep a check. If it is -1, then you say that it was not found. Okay, so any questions about this? Hopefully not. Very simple code, but any questions, any doubts, any concerns? So okay, so now I think Lakshminarayan, you were trying to say something in between. So do you have a better solution for this problem?
Actually, if s2 in s1.
Yes, exactly. So yes, yes, you are correct. So this is how you would do it if you were doing in C++ or Java, because this does not work in C. Also in C you have to use something else. But yes, let's just comment it out. So in Python, what you can do is, if you need to check for substring, it is very easy. And your code will be something like return s2 in s1. So this is your code, just this much. So what this means is that return s2 in s1. So this is similar to if you would do if s2 in s1. You can just return it directly. So what this means is that it just checks if this string is present in s1, and that is exactly what a substring is. So this in operator is very useful in Python. Let me show you some other uses of this in operator. So obviously I think you know that you can use it to check for elements in a array. So suppose you have an array of, say, 1 2 3 4 5, and if you have a number, you can check obviously if 2 in array, you can, it shows true. Let's say 6 in array, false. Okay, so you can also use it with, say, instead of say a list, you can use it with tuples or sets also. Suppose we make a set out of it, and we can do 2 in error. It's not an array, it's a set, but yeah, same thing. 6 in error, false. You can also use it for dictionaries. So if you have a dictionary, say dic of uh, say I don't know, uh, uh, let's say ABC for lack of better examples. Suppose you have some names, uh, I don't know, Nancy has scored say 98, something like this. Jonathan has scored say 50. Bad student. Sorry, not bad student, good student. Someone else, say Mike, has scored say suppose 99, something like this. If you have a dictionary, so you can actually check if a key is present in this dictionary or not. So you can check, say for example, Nancy in Dick, it will show true. If you say Luke in Dick, it will say false, because Luke is not present in the dictionary. So this is a very useful, this in operator is very useful for these kind of check, but also you can check for strings. So if you have a string, say s equals to say Python is fun, and you can just check for individual characters, like say if p in s, it will show true. You can also check for substring Python in s, it will also show you true. And yeah, and in many other places also. If you need to just check if something is in something in Python, if anything is in anything in Python, you can just use the in operator, it will probably work. And that's the beauty of Python. Joy of Python, joy of programming. Okay, any doubts? I hope not. Otherwise, we'll move on to the next question. Let me think about where else can I use in operators. Yeah, I guess it's okay. Anyway, let's move on to the next question. Okay. So next question. So suppose we are given an integer n. So we want to print all the, actually it's wrong English, it should be indices. We should print all the indices of numbers in that integer from left to right. So suppose you are given an input 1 2 2 3 4 5. So you have to print something like, so 1 is present in position 0 or index 0, 2 is present in indices 1 and 2, so this is 1 and 2, 3 is present in index 3, and 4 and 5. So you need to print something like this. So how can you do that in Python? So let's say you have something like, so can we copy paste from here? So input is something like this, output can we copy paste? Hopefully yes. Okay, so suppose we have something like this. So how do we make a function like this? Suppose we call it print indices, for lack of creativity, and we do something in between, right? So let's define a input number. So number equals to say 1 2 2 3 4 5, and yeah, we just need to print, or not print, we can just call this function like print indices with the number, right? So how can we do it? So there are many ways of doing it. Let's do it in the Python way, and let's use a dictionary for it. So basically what you need here is and yeah, I think the in command will also be handy here. So what do we need to do? Let us do it using a dictionary. So what we want to do is we want to make a dictionary of where the keys will be these numbers, right? These digits, or you can say like these digits will be the keys 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9, and we need to store a list as the key, as the value, sorry. So for example, 2 will point to a list that will contain 1 and 2. 1 will point to a list which will contain just one element of 0, right? So let's do it using a dictionary, and then we can also discuss some other ways of doing it. Dictionary. Okay, let's define a dictionary like this. Yes. So what we want to do is we want to iterate over all of the digits in this number, right? So one way to do it is, I think I have also shown in previous classes, and also if you want to do it in some other, as I see, if you want to do it in C, then your first instinct would be to do something like divide by 10 and like modulus 10, so that you can get the ones digit, like so num modulus 10. This will give you the ones place digit. But we can, in Python we can, or also in C++, we can just quickly convert it to a string. Let's just do num equals to string number, and then we can just use this as a, as an index. Like you can directly use 1 by 1 characters for something like, for digit in number we can do something like this, since we have converted our number to a string. So now we'll just fill up this dictionary, right? So what we want to do is, we want to check if this digit is already present in the dictionary or not, because if we do something like this, digit dot append, so this will be a list, append something like the position I. So I'm coming to the position. So if we do this, then we'll get an error. This is a different error. Okay, we'll get an error that this key is not present in the dictionary, right? So what do we need to do? First, we need to check if the digit is actually present in, why is it? Okay, you need to first check if this digit is present in the dictionary or not. If digit, let's just call it digit, if digit in dictionary, then you have to append this, right? And if it is not in the dictionary, then what do? Then we make a new list, and we add that key. So what we can do is, we can make a dictionary digit equals to, so we can do equals to, we are assigning value to this new key, but we cannot do append because there is no key. So this needs to be a list, but not an empty list. Obviously we need to add this index I also, right? So now one thing is, so where do we get this index? So one way of doing it is, like for I in range len number, but the better way to do it is to use enumerate. So if you do this enumerate number, then it will automatically give you the indices 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in I, and the digits will have these digits 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. These will be present in the digit. Okay, and then finally, when we have this dictionary, what we can do is, I think the question is, so we need to print it from left to right. Okay, I think so it depends on what you want to do, but I think the question was something like, so you need to print it in the order that the numbers were present. So if it was something like, for example, say something like this, 1, 3, 4, 2, 2, 5, so you need to print 3 first, 1, then 3, then 4, then 2, then 5. That is how you need to print. So for that, maintaining that order, you can again just iterate over this loop. So this time actually you don't need enumerate in num, sorry. So so you can just enumerate over the number again, and you can just print something like, say, digit. You're printing the digit, and then you are, so okay, the output is also given here. So you're printing the digit, and then you're printing the indices. So you can do something like, so let's just print the array for now. So we can just do digit. All right. So let's see what output do we get if we run this. Then we'll try to make it better slowly. Okay, so I think you can see it has come out like this. So now there are multiple ways of converting this to a, you know, uh, in the format that is given here, like without any brackets or commas. So one, the way that I would personally do it is like there are multiple ways. You can just use another for loop here. You can like print NPTEL. You can not give a new line after this end with something like a space, and then you start another for loop and you print out the elements one by one. That is one way to do it. The other way to do it is would be that I would prefer doing is to just, instead of appending the numbers, I am just appending the I'm just appending the indices in string format, and you'll see why just in a second. So once you have the number indices in a string format, you can actually use this function called join of string. So what this does is it joins all of the contents of this list using spaces, right? So if we run it now, you can see that we have the desired output. Actually not. So we have two times. So we are coming to that. We are fixing that. But at least you can see that the printing is now in the way that we want. Right. Okay. So how do we remove this extra 2? So one thing is, so you can again do it in a lots of ways, but one thing I think is if you just iterate over the dictionary, I think it will give you the keys in that order. Let you actually transpose, like traversed it in. So in the order that you filled in elements, the dictionary, if you iterate over the keys of the dictionary, it will automatically give you something like this. If you want to be more sure, you can obviously again traverse it, and then you need to keep a check if this digit has been printed or not, something like that. But I think for the purposes of this question, I think this is good enough. So any doubts? Otherwise I'll show you another way to do it. Any doubts about this question? Okay, no doubts. That's good. So either you're understanding everything or you're understanding nothing. So okay. Anyway, so so one other way to do it would be to use a data structure available in Python called a default dict. So here we have used actually two different what do you call it, like if else statements. So what if we don't want to? So we know that always we want a list only. So we can use a default dict that will automatically initialize your dictionary. So let's see once what happens if we just do this. If we remove this else part, if we remove this checking part, if we just try to append this, and obviously if we try to run it, it will show an error, key error 1. So 1 is not present in the dictionary, so it cannot append it, right? So the solution to this would be, so first we need to import something. We need to import from collections, import default dict, and here instead of just braces, we will write a default. By the way, you can also initialize a dict like this. Instead of just braces, you can also initialize a dict like this. Like this. And instead of an empty string, you can also initialize it like this. So just a side note. Okay, so we are here. We want this default dict, and this default dict actually takes in a parameter of what is the default type of key that you sorry, not a key, the value that you want. So in our case, we want value that is a list, right? So you want to append the indices to that list. So here we'll just write a list. Yeah, also similarly, if you want to make an empty list, instead of this we can also use list. So same thing. So here also we are telling that we want to make a default dict, where the keys by default will be list. And now if we have not changed anything else in the code, if we just try to run it, now you can see that it works just fine as we expect, right? And so I'm not showing an example here, but another thing, so if you need to use something like a list of list, suppose you want to for each key you want a value that is a matrix list of list, so you cannot just directly do something like list of list, that is not allowed. So what you need to do is, I think you need to do something like lambda x, sorry, not lambda x, lambda, and then you need to do default dict. Like if you want to do a dict of dict, so you can do something like this, something like this. Okay. So this will allow you to, if you have say two keys, like one key for say student name, one key for roll number, one key for roll number, one key for say course number. So then you would use something like this, or you would use a tuple as key. You can use either of those, whatever suits your problem better. But in this case, we can just use something like this, a default dict list. So by default, whenever it tries to see that this key is this digit present in the dictionary or not. If not, then it by default it initializes it with a list, an empty list. Okay. So any questions about that? Otherwise, I'll show you another way to do it. So for this particular problem, you can also use just a list instead of a dictionary. You can also use like a, okay, I think we are over time, so let's not start that. But so yeah, the premises, you can try it out yourself. You can just keep a list of lists. So each indices in the list will correspond to say 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So there are 10 digits like this. So each of these positions, so this is I'm just showing as positions. In reality, these will be just list of lists, like something like this. So this will be your I think you can get what I'm trying to say. Let me align these up, something like this. Okay, so initially you will have all empty lists, and then when you encounter say 1, then you will enter 0 over here. Okay, so next you encounter 3 for index 1, you can basically include 1 over here, and so on. This is also, so this is your only list, basically this will be your L. So this is another way you can actually solve this problem without using dictionaries. Okay. And yeah, that is actually I think the better solution if you are using C or C++. So this is called a hash map kind of. So this is also kind of like a dictionary, but simpler form of dictionary. But okay, anyway, any questions about this problem or any other problems in general? Otherwise, we can stop the class. Yes, any questions?
No, thank you, sir.
Oh, okay, welcome. Okay, then I'll stop the recording, but I'll wait here for